We have a missing 14-year-old, a body discovered inside of a Tesla,
whose real name is D4vd,
and a rising music star whose name is suddenly at the center of it all.
In the back of my mind, you died, and I didn't even cry. No, not a single tear.
How are they connected? What really happened between Celeste Rivas and David? And how did a story that started online turn into one of the most disturbing headlines in recent memory? Hello everyone, how's everyone doing? I hope that you are all doing well. So with today's case, we are covering a developing story, so we don't have facts from trials or police reports or anything like that. And this is a segment in the channel where we will be covering developing stories or stories that have a lot of mystery or a lot of unanswered questions or intrigue without really concrete answers, and they are also not long enough to be a true crime and makeup episode. Today's story has exploded everywhere online with so many speculations and theories because people want to get to the bottom of this, but that is not how police investigations work. They need a little bit more time. There is also so much misinformation that has been shared online, so what I'm trying to do today is to cover the facts, what we know so far, and break it down to dates, starting with what happened September 8th, 2025, leading up to today as I filmed this video, which is October 4th. So we are looking at the developments of the story from the time that it broke out to almost a month of progress and updates, which honestly isn't really much other than the onslaught of speculations and theories, like I said. But as more information comes out and we get a conclusion, we will cover that in a future true crime and makeup episode, maybe. If a crime has been committed, of course, we just don't know what is going on with the case. We just know that there is a girl who was found in a car, and this car is connected to a musician or an artist whose name is David. Among the many theories and speculations that are out there, some of them have been debunked, so we will also get into those as well. But let's start with David because he is really the person of interest here. So who is David? He was born on 28 March 2005 in Queens, New York. His family later moved to Houston, Texas, where he grew up until the very beginning of his career. He is from a very religious upbringing, more so that he only listened to gospel music until he was 13 years old, which is very interesting to see him go completely the other way with his own music, which is definitely anything but religious. He was homeschooled after 7th grade, and his introduction to secular music started when he got into gaming on Fortnite. He also had a YouTube channel where he shared his Fortnite montages, but he would get copyright strikes for using copyrighted music from artists like Jay-Z and the like. So this was a problem because he couldn't monetize his videos. And the thing with YouTube is the more copyright strikes you get, the less likely your videos will be pushed out there, which ultimately affects the growth of a channel. He complained about this to his mother, who then encouraged him to make his own music to use in his videos.
That's actually what pushed me into music, was getting copyright strikes on YouTube, and I kind of just used my own music in my montages after my mom told me to, because I was crying to her about it.
We love supportive parents because this is the beginning of his come up, really. He said that he started recording in his sister's closet because the acoustics were better. I hope that is how you say it. It's in relating to the sound quality. It was just better in his sister's closet, and he would sit there with his phone and BandLab and record his music. There was no expensive equipment, just his phone, a mic, some AirPods, and that's it. Not some AirPods. It's just his phone, mic, and AirPods, and that is it. He would use this music in his videos and his gaming, and he also uploaded some of the songs on SoundCloud. He said that everything he had to learn to record music was based off tutorials on YouTube. I mean, how impressive is that? He told his other gaming friends on Fortnite who also had a problem with copyright strikes, and he said that, hey, I have some music you can use if you are interested, and don't worry, you will not be copyrighted. It's my own music. And I mean, who wouldn't agree? The worst thing is putting work in your project as a creator and not being able to monetize off it. it. So this is great for everyone. People love his music, they are using his music, and then eventually his music started getting traction on TikTok, particularly his song called Romantic Reside. He then later released the song on Spotify and it garnered crazy numbers, landing on number 33 on the US Billboard Top 100 and number 3 on the Hot Alternative Songs chart. Naturally, record labels started to come in to try to sign him, but together with his parents, they decided to go with Darkroom and Interscope Records. So his music is said to be genreless because you can't really box it up and say, oh, this is R&B or it's pop or it's jazz, but it talks about love and heartbreak and longing. It sounds like whispered layered over lo-fi beats into rock riffs and R&B rhythms. So it's like all of those things into one. It sounds very dreamy, but the lyrics and the visual on the other hand take a darker turn. They lean more into shadows, real characters and unsettling aesthetics. There is bloody clothes and bodies being dragged on the ground, starved in trunks, which is quite ironic considering what actually happens later. And when you place that against his backdrop of his Christian upbringing, where he wasn't even allowed to listen to secular music, it creates this stark contrast. The boy who grew up in a deeply religious household is now creating art that is drenched in themes of loss, of death, of emotional turmoil, but it worked. After he got signed to Interscope Records, he produced more music with them. He had 2 EPs, an album. He performed at Coachella, and he was an opening act for SZA's SOS tour. As of this year, 2025, he was on his own tour all over America. All of this, mind you, happened within 3 years. 3 years, 1, 2, 3. Unprecedented for a kid who started making music in his sister's closet 3 years ago. I almost said 4. 3 years ago, to winning awards, having viral songs, going on tour, having millions, almost billions of listens on Spotify. His future is looking very bright until very recently, of course, it's starting to look bleak, potentially behind bars. So September 8th, 2025, at around 12:30 p.m., the police are called to a Hollywood Hills toll lot about a foul odor emanating from a Tesla. This Tesla was there in the first place because someone had called about it being abandoned in their street, and it just looked out of place there, and it didn't help that it had Texas plates. You know, this is Hollywood. Was it stolen? What is going on here? And side note, actually it was never reported stolen. So this car, this Tesla, was first reported abandoned on August 26th. An officer slapped a ticket on it on August 27th. There wasn't a lot of movement with the car in that period, and it was finally impounded on September 5th. That was on a Friday. On the next Monday, that is September 8th, that is when workers at this toll lot called the police about the bad smell emanating from the car, and there were flies all over it. So when the police got there, they opened the trunk, which is in the front because this is a Tesla, it has to be in the front, and they found a dead body that was heavily decomposed and wrapped in a plastic bag. There were also other reports that said that this body was chopped up. Others were saying that it was dismembered, but we don't really know if that is the case, or maybe because of how badly decomposed the remains were when they tried to move it, it was just falling apart. And when the police ran those license plates, they found that the car belonged to 20-year-old David Anthony Burke, famously known as David, but spelled D4vd, as in DVD, but like these are 4 between the first D and the V. Okay, the news exploded, news coverage, social media, everywhere. At this point, David had been on his Withered World Tour for over a month. He was set to perform in the US, Canada, Europe, and some parts of Australia. So why is there a body in the trunk of his car? Was it stolen while he was on tour? But it was never reported stolen. He still went on to perform the next day despite this news breaking out. And the people who were there seemed to have a good time. As far as everyone's concerned about this, the only link to this remains to David is that they were found in his car. That is as far as the connection or the involvement goes. But back in LA, the police had no idea who this was. But the medical examiner reported that the remains were of a female, 157 centimeters tall, which is about 5'2" or 5'1", I'm not sure. They also had black curly hair and was found wearing a black tank top, black leggings, and a tattoo that read "shh" on the right index finger. At this time, the race and age could not be determined because of, the state of the body. But there was a woman who came forward suspecting that these remains were of her daughter. The body was later identified on September 17th as that of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She was from Lake Elsinore and she was reported missing more than a year ago, multiple times. The first time that she ran away from home was in January of 2024 when she was only 13 years old. She was later located in February in Hollywood and the police sent her back home in Lake Elsinore, which is about 50 miles or so from Hollywood. The details of her recovery, to say exactly where she'd been staying after running away with whom, had never been made public. She ran away again in March, but she shortly returned home. Again, no details of where she had been, doing what, and with whom. The last time that she was reported missing was on April 5th, 2025, and that seemed to be the last of the developments until her body was discovered in David's Tesla more than a year later. There were questions as to why she kept on running away from home so much. People suspected some abuse or something to that extent happening in the home. She was described by her friends as this fun, studious, intelligent girl. It was just unfortunate that her home life was so troubled. Very, very recently though, I'm talking 30 September, a boy came forward to TMZ and he said that he was Celeste's ex-boyfriend. His name is Damien Hernandez. So Damien showed up on the interview with his mother and told them that they had dated briefly before Celeste's disappearance. They both went to the same middle school in Lake Elsinore, and he said that she often talked about running away from home because her mother didn't treat her well. They thought that she was joking because apart from the troubled home life that TMZ edited out because they couldn't verify all of this, she was just a happy kid. They realized though that she had been serious when she didn't show up to school the following day, and never heard from her or about her until reports of her remains were reported just a couple of weeks ago. So initially, these troubled home speculations were just solely online, but then the ex-boyfriend backed it up, and then TMZ also came out again to solidify these claims. They found out that in those 13 months or so that Celeste had been away from home, police reports indicate that the police had been called to her home about 11 times for domestic disturbances. That will be police visiting the home almost on a monthly basis.
TMZ has learned that the Riverside County Sheriff's Department responded to calls about Celeste's family or from Celeste's family about 11 times in a little over a year.
So there is definitely some problems there, and people are looking at the family a bit somehow to say that Celeste was not given the care that she needed at home. All of this is happening while people are still under the impression that the family has not seen Celeste in more than a year. But on September 30th, the TMZ also reported that they had a video where Celeste was quarreling with her neighbor over a prank. So this video is dated September 8th. 2024, which is the day after her 14th birthday. Her birthday is on September 7th.
The context of the video is she lived right next door. Kids in the apartment building had ding-dong ditched her house, so she was going over there to confront the kids.
The neighbor said he had recognized her and was very positive that it was her because they had seen the missing person posters all over the neighborhood, and when they saw her, they just assumed that she had been found. This neighbor's wife then went to her house after everything had died down and tried to apologize to her father, but he just shrugged and seemed so unbothered about it all. There are also no reports of the parents having gotten back to the police to notify them that Celeste was back. There is also another video on TikTok in June of 2024 where it seems to be like a family gathering, Celeste family gathering, and you can see Celeste greeting an elder and then walking off. So who is to know how often she actually went back home in that period where the public is led to believe that she was still missing? Because so far we have 2 verified reports of her being seen with her family in the time that she was said to be missing. The family went to the police to report her missing, but then when she came back, they never went back to them to notify them to say, oh, she's actually back. So is it because they knew where she was all of this time and knew she was safe? That's why they never bothered the police? We don't know. But the most important question now is, how is she connected to David? So there are some photos and screenshots of Discord chats that quickly came to light, which heavily suggests that they knew each other. Initially thoughts were they could have just been friends on Discord, but there are pictures of them together, and in most of these pictures Celeste is hiding her face. There is also a picture of David interacting with a fan, and in this picture it's said to be very, very close to Celeste's home in Lake Elsinore, which would imply that maybe she went to check up on her or take her away, or we don't know. I don't want to rely heavily on the speculations or the rumors that are swirling around. But what we do know is some people in David's circle later came out and said, yes, they have seen David and Celeste together on his tour, on his casual days, and yes, they did seem to be in a relationship. They assumed Celeste must have been 18 or 19 and attended UCLA, which is the University of California, Los Angeles. They have seen her backstage when David was performing, and they've also seen her at adults-only events. So naturally, they thought that she was an adult. It goes without saying how shocked everyone was when they found out that she was actually just 12 years old when this alleged relationship started, and he would have been 17. Her mother also backed this and told authorities, or was it TMZ, between the two, that Celeste had a boyfriend named David. Is this David the same one we've been talking about? We don't know for sure, because investigators are not saying anything at this point to confirm or to deny. There were pictures though that were found on her Instagram, and in this picture it's her left hand, and you can see a David tattoo in red ink on her ring finger, and there is also a ring that looks like it could be a promise ring or an engagement ring. There are also so many edited videos of them together that we cannot verify them to be true or not, and we are not really going to cover that today. But everyone that has been following this case is under the impressions that they were actually in a relationship, which is sick and twisted considering her age. She is a literal child.
I media trained you.
No, you didn't.
That's controversial.
It's controversial of being kids.
Really good.
Okay,
It's been a good one. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Mwah, 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 mwah. Oh my! Delete everything. Delete everything. Everything goes.
She was not yet born when Waka Waka came out. You know, the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. That is literally yesterday. 5-year age gaps in adults is fine. You're literally the same age, Ms. Now, if it's a 17-year-old dating a 12-year-old, that is completely different territory. It's predatory and it's not a good look for David. So now let's get into the timeline of the development of the story from September 8th. So after the news broke out on September 8th about the body being found in his car, he went on to perform a few shows, but he stopped altogether when the remains were identified to be that of Celeste. His spokesperson said that David had been notified, which is an interesting choice of word here, of what happened. And he was cooperating with authorities, which is why people didn't think that he was involved in the case. At the time, he was performing, and I think it was Seattle or someplace, and all of this is happening in LA. So people are like, well, it's just his car. What does he know? But things spiraled south very quickly after this. So 2 days later, which is September 10, after the discovery of the remains and linked to David, Crocs and Hollister issued a statement and pulled David off their campaigns and all of the promotional materials featuring him. He was set to drop a collection called Dream Drop with Crocs. Brands are quick to do this though. I mean, they distance themselves very quickly whenever there is drama or like some scandals. Scott Crady, who is the founder and CEO of Magnitude, which is an integrated marketing and communication consultation firm, told the police that, I can't say I'm surprised by the decision to move David from the campaign, given the potential impact on Crocs and Hollister's reputation. It's probably a safe course of action from a brand image perspective, which fair enough, but I must say they quickly washed their hands, patted them dry and skedaddled out of there. September 17, Celeste's family put up a GoFundMe for Celeste's burial. The goal was to raise $20,000 and they exceeded that amount and managed to raise $24,843. The funeral service is scheduled for October 5th, which is the day that this video will be going up. But I will try to insert some pictures or reports just before uploading this video. After that, about a week later, on September 18th, his record label officially paused promotion on his Weathered Deluxe album, which is an extension of the Weathered album amid the investigation. They also paused all promotional activities related to David out of the respect for the seriousness of the situation and their ongoing investigation. There was also no statement issued from them to address everything that has been going on. The following day, September 19, David's Hollywood home that is actually leased by his manager, his name is Josh, it was raided by investigators. They were seen walking out with laptops and other electronics and evidence bags. They also used luminol in his house, which is used to search for blood splatters, traces of blood. We don't know what they found in that house, but there were no arrests made or anyone named as a suspect in the investigation. I will get to this a little bit later. Also, the police say that they are investigating a death, not a homicide, but this case is led by the LAPD robbery and homicide unit. So people are kind of looking at it sideways like, are you sure? Needless to say, David broke the lease and moved out immediately, I think about 2 days later or so. And on September 20th, that is when he cancelled the rest of his US tour. He was supposed to start the Europe tour on October 1st, but that was cancelled again because of the investigation. Celeste's body was released to her family on September 24th for a memorial service. That could mean a cause of death may have been determined, but it could also mean that they have collected enough samples for further testing, but that information has not been released. It's important to note that her remains were severely decomposed, only weighing 71 pounds. In her last missing post, she was said to have weighed about 120 pounds. What the medical examiner was working with is almost half of her initial body weight. I think it is also very important that I insert this here because it may severely affect the outcome of this case. So as investigators continue to probe this case and find leads and everything else that they are working on, there is a legal expert. His name is Chad D. Cummings. He told the Mirror, he said, and I quote, "The extensive decomposition and mutilation of the corpse introduce a high probability of inconclusive autopsy findings. Celeste Rivas' remains were not merely decomposed. They were dismembered and left in the front Tesla trunk for at least 11 days in the August heat." Again, this has not been verified about the body being dismembered. We don't know that yet, but you know, most reports have reported it as the body being dismembered. So, all right. Again, not verified. But the remains were in the trunk for about 11 days in the August heat. The level of decay severely compromises forensic analysis. There is a possibility that Celeste's cause of death will be ruled undetermined. Internal organs, soft tissues, and toxicological viability may be lost, and the body weight of 71 pounds suggests wasting or decomposition over weeks or months. If cause of death is ruled undetermined, prosecutors may rely entirely on circumstantial evidence. So if the autopsy report cannot distinguish between strangulation, poisoning, overdose, or natural causes, it may become impossible to prove foul play, and the case risks collapsing into a disposal of remains misdemeanor. Like I had said in the beginning about the theories and speculations online connecting the two about their sightings, how the relationship could have started, but getting into that will mean me being here for another hour. Most of the speculations have not been proven to be true or not, so I'm not really going to get into that. One theory that has been debunked so far is that Celeste was pregnant at the time of her death. She was actually not. So the theory was that David killed her because should news like this break out that he was sleeping with a child and actually impregnated her, everything that he has worked so hard for and had built in his very short career will all come crumbling down. The medical examiner had a report that clearly stated that she was actually not pregnant at the time of her death, or had she ever been pregnant in the last year. So I don't know where the pregnancy theory came from, but again, people are just trying to make sense of the case. I really can't blame them. But yeah, that was debunked. She was not pregnant. I think it was actually on her death certificate that it did state that she was actually not pregnant, or had she been pregnant in the past year. Another theory was that she saw something that she shouldn't have, either about David, his manager, or his team, that was so bad that it could have ended all of their careers. David's manager came out and said that he didn't not only know what had happened, he didn't even live with David. He is a married man with 3 young children, and he does not live in Hollywood, let alone California. His work is remote based, and he is not involved in the day-to-day running of David's career. He has other people who do that for him. Just like Crocs and Hollister, he quickly cleared his name, and he does not want any association to do with this case. As it stands today, the day that I'm filming this video, October 4th, there is still no determined cause of death or any motives if this is a homicide investigation. No one, that is the LAPD, the medical examiner, Celeste's family, David's team, or David himself is saying anything. Everyone is tight-lipped, and it's not really helping with all of the speculations and theories that are surfacing online. This investigation is coming to a month, and there still hasn't been any arrest made or any names dropped as suspects in the investigation. So an investigator who appeared for an interview with Court TV, he's actually not involved in this investigation. He provided some insight as to why this may be. He said that investigators are more likely to be crossing their T's and dotting their I's, as it were, so that when they finally make that arrest, they get him for everything, not just for murder, if at all he was involved in her death. But he is most likely looking at some jail time because he was dealing with a minor.
I media trained you.
No, you didn't.
That's controversial.
It's controversial of kids.
And if it is proven that they've actually been intimate, he will most likely be charged with statutory rape. And with other sightings of him traveling with her on tour or whatever, it could also be kidnapping. With everything that I have seen, and if you are following this case, you would have seen as well, David is looking very, very guilty at this point. But that is only because of what we have been able to see online with the theories, connecting them together. I don't see how he can get out of this unscathed. I really don't see. I think he is going to serve some time in prison. Yeah, may not be for murder, but he's more likely looking at some jail time. As for speculations that David might have been in a relationship with Celeste, the police chief said, whenever you investigate homicide, the detectives look at all of the associated issues as well. In this case, that's something that they could be looking at. This is why earlier I said that people were looking at the LAPD sideways when they said that they are investigating a death and not a homicide. But here you have the police chief on about investigating a homicide. And also we found out that the homicide and robbery unit is leading the investigation. Come on. Is this a murder? We don't know. But the questions still linger. What really happened to Celeste? Is David involved in a death? Exactly to what extent were they involved with each other? These questions will hopefully be answered as the investigation continues. So let me know what you think about this case. Let me in on your own theories, your own speculations. Do you think David is guilty? Because as far as most people are concerned, he kinda is. And with everything that we've seen, he kinda looks guilty. But until then, please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye. Bye. All right.